Hello, my name is Gretchen Hintz Wronka. My father, Lorne Hintz, was born on a farm outside of Lake Park, Iowa on October 19th, 1917. He grew up on a farm outside of Charles City, Iowa, with his parents and 4 siblings. Lorne was a World War II fighter pilot, killed in action on April 21st, 1945. His P-47 plane was shot down by retreating German soldiers and crashed and burned in a farm field outside of Bologna, Italy. I was 15 months old. My brother Martin, it was 6 weeks before my brother Martin was born. Our father's descriptions of his woodcraft experience, the Winnebago Consul in Charles City, Iowa, and his published and unpublished poetry, influenced by his Seton Village summers, have given my brother and me insight into the father we never knew. Our dad's exuberant, idealistic writings, forged by woodcraft values, have become part of the cherished legacy of my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren. This legacy has become part of the woodcraft story also. My remarks today are based on excerpts from a 100-page autobiographical essay, A Young Chieftain Speaks, written by Lorne in 1933. I suspect he had some editing assistance from Howard Clark Brown, the consul's adult leader. Brown, whose woodcraft name was Tokania, was a poet, a dancer, an advocate for Indian rights, a naturalist, an instructor and cultural coordinator at Seton Village and the College of Indian Wisdom in Santa Fe. He became Lorne's mentor and friend. The pictures that will illustrate this presentation are from the Hintz family archives. As an author, Lorne often used his woodcraft honorific title, Paul Batab. After some research, Seton scholar David Witt concludes that this was a fictional name made up for the hero of a series of dime novels published in the 1920s that were very popular with boys. It supposedly translates as Young Chieftain. Lorne used his mother's birth name, Baum, as his pen name in writing Youth Dreams, a slim volume of poetry published in 1937 when he was 20. Most of the poems reflect Lorne's passion for nature that was honed during his woodcraft days. It concludes with a poem he composed in honor of Chief Ernest Thompson Seton's 76th birthday. So Lorne's woodcraft story begins. I'd never heard of the Woodcraft League of America before, and when Howard began to tell me of all the interesting things he'd done in this organization, I soon began to realize how much fun it was to take part in a play, to tramp, to do Indian dancing, to make masks rattles. It didn't take me long to realize what a chance a fellow would have to do something worthwhile for the other fellows and for woodcraft itself. Lorne explored a variety of woodcraft activities and especially enjoyed learning indigenous dances. By all accounts, including his own, Lorne was a skilled dancer. He wrote, "Folks may think dancing is not a boy's pastime, but let me say, it requires a great deal of time, lots of energy to do any of these dances which I've described, to do them well. The Indian dances especially require good wind, plenty of muscle. They're good training for the use of the body, not just in making muscles, but in holding the body in such a way that is beautiful." Lorne's first road trip to Seton Village with Brown and several other Charles City boys in the summer of 1933 was a grand adventure. It was hard to convince his folks he should go. It was also difficult to raise the $60 that the camp cost, including car and traveling expenses, tuition, and board for 6 weeks. The guys figured it out, including getting the job of washing dishes at the camp to pay for their meals. Lorne commented, "If only we'd known what washing dishes meant for that many people." After quite a journey in a borrowed Ford, they arrived at the College of Indian Wisdom, just as a crowd was pressing us on toward the door of the Hogan. In the midst of it, we saw Ernest Thompson Seton, carrying a zuni bowl which had fire within it. The first impression which we had of him was that he was a man of great powers of decision. Lauren describes a rather disheveled Seton, but notes that he looked big, imposing, both physically and mentally, and one felt that what he said would be law. The daily routine at the College of Indian Wisdom featured hour-long sessions where campers could learn handicrafts like Indian quill or beadwork, pottery, and moccasins. The school had a family of Indians at the camp to teach these. The Indian women taught the teaching of pottery. The men taught the making of moccasins. Campers had to buy leather if they wanted to make moccasins. We boys didn't have much money, so we chose pottery, which was free. Lauren ruefully noted, "The making of pottery takes a skillful hand. Ours were anything but skillful. After 4 or 5 tries, we managed to get the shape of a dish or a vase of some sort and set it aside to dry. Next came polishing. This was done with very fine, hard stones, which we were told were gizzard stones from dinosaurs. These stones are handed down from one generation to another. The loss of one is supposed to bring bad luck. While Ramon and Rose from the San Ildefonso Pueblo showed us how to make pottery, they freely loaned us their polishing stones. Some of our white visitors were careless. Probably they didn't realize how much the Indians treasured these stones. At any rate, at the end of the time, it was found that 5 of the stones were lost. One of the main classes was taught by Chief Seton himself in the study of his home. Lauren describes a long room lined with walls, with bookcases above, which were pictures of animal life which Chief had painted. At one end was a great chair, carved and painted. In this sat the Chief. Probably the greatest of his lectures is the one he gave one evening with the use of slides. It was about his great animal characters, Lobo and Blanca, Johnny Bear, and many other animals he made famous through his stories. Chief is one of the greatest living storytellers. When he tells a story, it's as if you were at hand. When a wolf howls, he howls. When a dog barks, he barks. When a bird gives a call, he calls. And when the wind sighs in the trees, he makes the noise of the wind. When he wants to show how an animal goes, he demonstrates with his hands or by walking with his whole body. Day after day, we saw Chief tramping through the camp, helping with classes. It was a wonderful privilege for me. Lauren admired Jack Hokia, the renowned Kiowa artist and dancer, who spent a summer at the village. Jack's considered to be the best dancer in the Southwest. He was 6 feet tall, rather heavy build, and I should imagine he weighed around 180 pounds. I never saw anyone so light on his feet. When he was dancing, his feet seemed to barely touch the floor. The variety of steps which he introduced into his dances was another feature of his solo work. Lauren describes Jack's regalia in detail, calling it very gorgeous. Lauren continued, besides being a dancer, Jack was also an artist, and he did some very fine paintings. He was the one who decorated the walls of the Hogan. Jack and I became fairly good friends. One day he offered to teach me some of the dances which he knew. He made me dance around in a circle for about 15 minutes, using a step which he'd shown me. This, he said, was to get loosened up so I wouldn't be so stiff in dancing. At last, when he had me almost ready to quit, he showed me how the Kiowa eagle dance is done. This is a very easy dance as far as steps are concerned, but it's one of the most tiring dances I know. After I'd managed to do the dance to his satisfaction as a beginner, we quit for the day. When Jack was teaching me, he always sat on the seat of the Hogan and beat the tom and sang in the most perfect rhythm. To people who'd never heard the songs before, they sounded more or less alike, but after we'd listened to him singing several times, we found there was as much difference in his songs as there is in ours. The Charles City guys stayed for 2 weeks after camp closed. Their final adventure was a trip to the Aspen Ranch in Colorado, owned by friends of the Setons. Lauren fell in love with the mountains. It was here that you felt free. It was where you could let your troubles and cares fall away, Who could have troubles in a place like this? The night after we left, I dreamed of a home in the mountain, with forests on all sides, with small streams and peaks surrounded by clouds. I'll never forget this place. Someday I'm going back here and explore a bit of those mountains and camps and ride horseback in these mountains where nature still has the upper hand. As an adult, Lauren incorporated Woodcraft philosophy into his work as the Community Recreation Coordinator for the Works Progress Administration, a signature program of Roosevelt's New Deal. An article published in the Marshalltown, Iowa Times-Republican on March 4th, 1941, shortly before Lauren enlisted, quotes this 24-year-old Hintz man's mature reflections on indigenous culture. They seem a bit stereotyped today, but it was a sincere appreciation of the Indians whom he'd met. The white man failed to understand the Indian. Especially it's true of the older Indians who were driven from their hunting grounds and deprived of the means of providing food and clothing for themselves and their families. These were the declarations of Lauren Hintz, WPA Recreation Director, at the Lions Club weekly luncheon meeting at the Hotel Tallcorn. The Indians were real conservationists. The white man could profit by a study of his ideas and methods, according to the speaker. The Indian killed no more game than necessary to meet the immediate needs of his family. He destroyed no more trees than he required for his own comfort or the material from which to build himself a canoe. He was taught from boyhood to put out every ember remaining from his campfire before he left. It's a safeguard against fires which might spread and destroy acres of trees. The Indian has a keen sense of humor, according to Mr. Hintz, but is too polite to laugh at the white man and his ways and his misconception of Indians' ways of thinking or mode of living. The white man forced him to adjust himself to new ways of life and to become more dependent on the government for subsistence, Hintz added. My dad's appreciation for nature, his growing understanding of his white privilege, and his deep respect for the culture of the Pueblo Indians and other tribal communities whom he met continues to be an example to me and my family. His Woodcraft experience inspires us today. Thank you.